I went to school to make money. I was in business to make money. That was the plan. And it's like I could not go about my life knowing that Jesus had a mission. And so I just feel some type of way if God is asking for something and I say, you know, God, you can't get that from me. You got to go to the next person. Nazareth? What good thing ever comes from Nazareth? And I feel like the Lord is speaking that to me. We don't get to decide where the bar is. You know, Jesus already did that.
All right, man. So we on with Sir James Offord, man. Can we clap it up for him? Clap it up for him right quick.
Oh, wait, I got to turn the volume back up. I butchered that, bro. Yeah, I've never done the clap track before. I messed it up.
Hey, man, it's good, man. We're excited to have you on, man. I remember being a student at UL and then hearing that there was somebody who was going to be leading a Chi Alpha at an HBCU. And being a young black man going to a PWI, I was really excited to just get to contact with you and connect with you just to see what does that look like from the other end. Because I've always, like, desired that HBCU life growing up as a kid, but end up me going to a PWI, I'm really interested to see how it's different there and how can I, as a man, and Austin too, how can we minister to the black community more effectively for the cause of Christ, man. So we're just excited for you to meet you. And thank you for taking time out of, you know what I'm saying, your busy schedule to come and chat with us, man.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, you say you make time for what you care about.
Hey, look, sure, he cares about the Kingdom Come podcast.
Nah, for sure. So I really wanted to get the viewers an idea of who you are and how you came to be where you are. So what kind of inspired you to be in this pastoral role, or how did you end up getting to where you're at now?
For sure. And so, I mean, if our audience is a part of Chi Alpha, then my story is very similar to many of our stories. Had somebody that was like a big brother to me when I came to college that helped me show me how to really walk with God. Before that, in high school, played football, ran track, you know what I'm saying? And in that you know what I'm saying, that stage, in that area, my world revolved around sports, games, and girls.
That's true.
And so when I had somebody kind of show me not just talk about God, but like show me a life model chasing after God for real, you know, that hit me different. And so I started, you know, thinking about God in a serious way. And ultimately, one thing led to the next. I want to take responsibility in God's kingdom. And really, I guess my whole story leading up to this point is a story of choosing to take responsibility.
Now, did you give your life to Christ in college?
I did. Okay,
so like pre-college, was it cultural Christian, like don't really care, or were like, did you love Jesus?
When I go to church, I was like ready to be out of church.
I feel you.
But you went to church.
I was made to go to church every now and then.
In the church.
It depends on who I'm with. You know what I'm saying? My grandma gotta go to church. But yeah, I didn't really grow up going to church on a consistent basis.
Okay, so then you get to college. Where'd you go?
I went to Sam Houston State.
Sam Houston.
Okay, for sure.
So you show up. How does God grip your life?
For sure. And so ultimately, I mean, it all goes back to my boy Mike, who's the small group leader, part of Chi Alpha.
Shout out Mike.
And honestly, you know, Mike was a hooper. You know, there's some people that play basketball.
He played.
And there's some people that hoop.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I played basketball.
But he hooped.
But he hooped.
Okay, cool, sweet.
Yeah. And so, but Mike, no, I appreciate it.
Our students told us to say that whenever we get on the podcast, because that's your thing. That
yeah,
cool,
that's
sweet,
my
sweet.
thing.
I know your face was like, wait, what?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool.
Sweet.
Hey, got it. Pick it up.
But he was a hooper.
He was a hooper.
Okay.
And so, but you know, I seen the way Mike played. He played humble. He used to always pick me up, even though I wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but we together.
Yeah.
And so,
he brought you, so he gonna bring you on that team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we'll win because
right. Okay. Because I'll bring people with me, but like that don't mean I'm picking you. I feel like.
All right, you can't. He's not a hooper.
What you mean? But
no. Hoopers, they sometimes they want to win because they hoop.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not. I know my strengths and my weaknesses, so I'm not about to set myself to be the best player on my team.
Okay, that's fair.
You know
so you're not going to bring bums with you and pick the bums.
I'm not picking the bums. I'll bring the bums so that I can play against them, and then we.
But Mike didn't care about being. Are you a bum or you okay?
I'm all right.
Okay.
I play with my friends.
Okay.
Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, but honestly, Mike was basically, he modeled Christ for me in a way that he lived his life. And if I could sum it up, ultimately, I would live my life basically saying, God, what can I get from you? And then Mike showed me what it meant to say, God, you know, I'm not just following you from what I can get from you. I'm following you because I truly love you.
Wow.
And me seeing that in Mike's life, that made me really think about my own life, and that my motive shifted. And when my motive shifted, the way I can just put it is my life circumstances didn't change, but I changed.
Wow. And so that was your freshman year of college?
That's my freshman year in college.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's like a lot of Chi Alpha people's story. That's similar to my story, similar to his story. But it's like we all had that person that like came to us. And you said so he modeled Christ to you. Was that not something you had seen before?
Nah, it wasn't.
Okay. And so why did it look appealing? Why did you see that and go, I need that?
For sure. You know, I think it look appealing to everybody. I think love looks appealing. But I think sometimes people don't recognize the love until it's like shown to them more directly. Even, you know, my boy, he was, I think he showed it to me, and experiencing it, you know, it affected me. And I think it affects everyone whenever they experience that love. And so I think, you know, you have culture, but the nature of love, it still hit the same no matter what the culture is.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, like love is appealing, and some people, like everybody's looking for love to some degree, but some people find it in distorted places. But it's like when you found it in its purest form in Christ, it was like, bro, I need this. How long did it take for God to like I think there's like a difference between, okay, like I'm seeing this modeled by Mike, and now how long did it take to be implemented into Sir James's life? What's up, Kingdom Come family? Sorry to interrupt the podcast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could just take 1 second and press that like button and press the subscribe button, it will help us grow substantially. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to your podcast, just take 1 second, make sure you're following, and make sure to go leave a 5-star review. It helps us so much in the algorithm to get this show in front of more people so they can be a part of the Kingdom Come family and encounter the kingdom of God everywhere they go. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Ultimately, I think when I had that shift change in my perspective of how I'm serving God and how I'm viewing God, you know what I'm saying? I started saying, not just what can I get from you, God, but God, what can I give to you? That's when I started seeing, like, how can I unselfishly choose for the highest good of God and his kingdom?
Right.
And so I started, for me, that led into me becoming a small group leader.
Okay.
You know, not only did I experience the love that was given to me, I'm now saying, God, how can I give something back to you?
Yeah.
Nah, for sure. So would you say you ever, like, felt that love before? Or, like, yeah, do you feel like there was, like, yes, that's what I'm trying to, like, understand, like, because growing up, like, I went to church, and I actually liked going to church.
You were a deacon, huh?
Yeah, junior deacon.
Junior deacon.
I was a junior deacon. So I really enjoyed going to church, but I still was missing that genuine relationship aspect with Jesus. And so it's like, did you ever feel that love prior to, or was this something that was just foreign and new to you, I guess?
Yeah, I think the love, you do kind of got to break it down a little bit. Yeah. I think the fact that Mike was a little bit older than me, but he basically was another, you know, black brother that I could see myself in. Like, it wasn't like some distant person. It was like, man, like Mike's acting like this, but Mike's not really that much older, that much different from me. Yeah. And so I think that made it more inspirational. It made it hit closer to home. So I think growing up, you know, I never had anyone really around my same age walking with God genuinely. Yeah. And I seen a lot of hypocritical, you know, actions from people in church, but then they act another way outside of church. And so none of it really clicked to me. I thought it was all kind of like, you know, like propaganda, just kind of like way culture grew up.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, honestly, I think it was as simple as that. You know, I used to have this view of thought like, man, I don't know if some of my friends, you know, I grew up in high school, I don't know if they want to hear what I have to say about God. Because it's like, man, I don't know if they trying to listen. But then, like, the Lord low-key just said, well, you listen.
right.
That's real. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, yeah, I did listen when someone took the time to, you're not just talking to me, but model it and walk it out with me.
Hey, that's a fire encouragement because, like, I've had instances in which I've been like, why would anybody want to listen to me? Like, I feel like my testimony is not as crazy as some other people's testimony is, like, but I listened. So, like, it might work with somebody else that may have a similar thought process as me. Or who am I to diminish what the Holy Spirit can do through me? You know what I'm saying? And just to posture myself in a position to allow God to use me. But all I have to do is be faithful and taking that step. And that's all Mike did. It's not that Mike was just so incredible, but it was the God that's inside Mike, which is the same God that's living in all of us. And so you have this encounter, and then you start to understand what it means to, like, walk with God. And as you said, chasing after God, which was a huge shift for you. So how do you get from that initial chasing after God to the point where now you're a campus pastor, where you're overseeing the growth of a lot of young people?
For sure. Well, definitely one step at a time.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing.
You didn't go to college.
I didn't go to college for that. You know?
What'd you go to school for?
I went to school for business.
Hey, same. Well, I did after I changed majors 5 times, but yeah.
Right. And to be honest, I went to school to make money.
Right,
I was in
right.
business to make money. That was the plan.
Nah,
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, you know, just one step at a time. It's funny, I was doing an internship working for like a small town development, and they had like a downtown city area. And I found myself, I did 2 months. The first month, I was always doing stuff with the business, like with the downtown development. But then I started meeting young kids, not young kids, but like young adults, and I built a small group. And then by the time that second month came, I cared more about that small group of people and leaving them in a good place than I did about these small businesses.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of knew, like, man, I couldn't see myself doing this downtown development for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And in fact, I started thinking about what could I be at the end of my life and say, man, I'm content that that's what I spent my life doing. And I didn't know, but I said, man, if I was having to move people closer to Jesus for the rest of my life, I could be content with that at my deathbed.
Wow. No, that's power, because it's like you had to lay down your ambition for what you thought you wanted, for what God told you you needed to some degree. It's like, bro, I wired you for this. And then he shows you, but you had to do something first. Like, you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat.
You were just staring me down. Like, because I feel like sometimes people are like, bro, I don't know what God's called me to do. But, like, ever since giving their life to Jesus, they ain't done nothing. It's like they just, like, it's like you're still in the prayer circle praying, God, show me my purpose. And he's like, bro, it's in front of you. You just got to take it step by step. Because it's like, you were like, when he asked you, how do you become a campus director? How'd you get there? You're like, bro, one step at a time. And because we were having a conversation with the guy we were riding with earlier, and he's like having these 5-10-year plans. It's like, hey, dude, take one. What's the next right step for you, your life, wherever you feel like God's leading you? So it's like you had to take the next right step.
Bro, this past week, I'm talking to my father-in-law. He was like, hey, Derek, you trying to run it with me? And he was like, say, what's your plan for the next 5 years? And I was like, I don't know. You know, because, like, what I thought I would be doing with my life 5 years ago is not at all what I'm doing now. And it's just crazy how, like, I just want to be faithful with the next thing that God has called me to. And so he's talking to me as someone who wants to make sure his daughter's taken care of. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you what I think, but ultimately, you know, only God knows. And I'm going to make sure I posture myself in a position that I'm just going to do the next thing that he calls me to do and be content with that.
Yeah.
And so I guess, like, do you have any wisdom to speak in, like, having plans for the future, but still being willing to submit to whatever God has called for you? Because I feel like the Bible doesn't also encourage us to live, like, just frivolously and without plan.
Yeah, we're supposed to have vision.
We're supposed to have vision, but so what's the balance between, like, having our vision and then God's vision, I guess?
For sure. Well, I'm going to say something that's probably counterintuitive a little bit. But when I think about having vision or thinking about the future, I think it's important to, like, include your heart. And when I say your heart, what I'm really saying is, like, the Lord spoke to my heart. And it's like I could not go about my life knowing that Jesus had a mission and something that he cared about, that he was crying about, that he was passionate about. And how could I just keep living my own life and ignore that passion? And so I was driven by that. And so I was driven by that one step at a time. God, what can I do to help you in your quest and what you care about? So that's what led me to small group leading. That's what led me to consider doing full-time ministry work. And ultimately, that's what led me to where I'm at right now at Prairie View A&M Chi Alpha.
So, like, you were at Sam Houston. How does Prairie View come onto the scene at all?
For sure. And so once, I was about to graduate from college, and I'm like, what I'm going to do, I kind of want to do this internship with Chi Alpha. I tell my dad, like, hey, Pops, I want to do this internship with ministry. He's like, well, they paying you?
Yep.
I'm like, well.
The question we all get.
Well, yeah, kind of. I just got to raise it.
Right.
Speaking of which, here's my card. Right. Here's my giving link.
Right.
Yep.
And, my pops, he's like, boy, you're not doing that. Yeah. Like, that's not a good ideal. Yeah. Like, that's not smart. Like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Like, right. I've been telling you about these people for the last 5 years.
Yeah. In fact, my people were skeptical about it from the beginning. No. Like, bro, who are these people? And then we had the retreat in the woods.
Fall breakaway,
and my people was like, man, you going to the woods with them white people?
Every single year, it's like our faithful black students who are freshmen, they can never come to fall breakaway because their parents are like, you going to the woods with white people you just met? Hell no. And it's like, and I'm like, when you say it that way, like, it seems a little weird. I don't even remember where we were.
Hey, camping fun though.
I'm with you.
But then you come back speaking in tongues and they're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on?
You're in a cult. So some of those Chi Alpha haters in the comments would agree with that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Man, shout out to Stick in the Mud.
How you? How did you end up at Prairie View though?
Right. So after basically my dad was like, "Don't do it." I feel like my heavenly Father was like, "Do it."
Yeah.
And so I had to ask myself this question. This kind of ties to the last question too. Which one can I live without regret? Which decision can I take responsibility for the most and live with? And I said, if I do this internship and I say it don't work out, I just go into the marketplace, get paper. It's all good. Sure. But if I start getting paper now and start, working on my career, climbing a ladder,
facts.
It's like, I'm not about to just drop all that and go raise support. No. So I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust God in this area first and then see where it leads.
Yeah.
And so ultimately that led to RUI. Which is the orientation for new missionaries. And it was at RUI when I had a lady come speak to me. My name was Belkis. And she asked me, have I ever considered going to a historically black college to do ministry? And I was with my wife at this time.
So you were already married?
Future wife. No, my
okay, gotcha.
Wife. And we both nearly just bust out laughing.
What a reaction. She was doing the internship too?
Yeah, she was doing the internship too. Maybe it was more me than her,
Okay, gotcha.
I'm a little bit more, off the cuff.
Yeah.
And but because it's like, no,
like not at all,
like not at all. Because I'm thinking about Prairie View A&M. That's the college HBCU close to where I grew up back in the Houston area.
Yeah.
And like that's what my friends that I used to roll with in high school all went there, and I was thinking about going there. And it was actually my dad again that was like, no.
Yeah.
And no shots at PV, not for PV, but that's my dad. My dad was like, I don't know.
Does it have like a party reputation?
It has a party reputation, but there's worser party reputations.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Sure.
Most colleges I feel like have some form of reputation like that.
So it's all right.
Yeah.
But at that time in my life, I was like, I understand what you're saying, though, Pops. Like,
right, right.
It's like, man, I'm like, I don't know about that one. And then, anyway, several jokes in my head later that I won't say, over this podcast. But the Lord,
you can say whatever you want. Don't feel a need to filter.
And I'm gonna keep going. And the Lord spoke to me. He spoke to me from John chapter 1. And it was when Philip went to go find his brother Nathaniel. Mm-hmm. And he said, I found the one that Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus, and he's from Nazareth. And his brother Nathaniel said, Nazareth? What good thing ever comes from Nazareth? And I feel like the Lord was speaking that to me. Like, don't you know that I bring great things out of places that no one expects anything from.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's fire.
And so that spoke to my heart first. And then I later found out that out of 101 HBCUs, there wasn't a single full-time ministry on any of them, although there's over 300 Chi Alphas across the nation. And I say full-time ministry, I mean from Chi Alpha. Mm-hmm. But truth be told, when we started our journey, we said, hey, let us talk to somebody who's done this so that we can learn from them.
Yeah.
I asked our national leaders, and they said, we have no one we can direct you to. We don't know anybody that's doing a great job to model after.
Wow.
And so, you know, me and my wife and a few other faithful friends, we planted PV Chi Alpha at Prairie View A&M in spring 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that COVID year.
Oh, man.
But what's crazy is that, man, I was just set on Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's because of the way we do ministry, though, COVID really didn't slow us down. Because we do ministry by building relationships.
Right.
And so we couldn't build relationships with a lot of people, but the few people that we had built those relationships with, once they shut everything down, it was just like, we just hanging out with them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because that was a time where people were starving for any form of connection.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the Lord blessed it, and the Lord been blessing it. But that's how I ended up at Prairie View Chi Alpha. I also found out, you know, out of 110,000 U.S. missionaries, less than 1% were African American. And so ultimately, I just realized, like, man, like if I don't do this, I don't know who will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nah, for sure. That's awesome. And so, I mean, granted, man, so you get there, you're at PV. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges in sharing the gospel with the Black community? Like, and as far as how have you grown to learn to do ministry effective at PV?
For sure. Good question. Definitely like some challenges is probably like the biggest issue with the Black community, at least, for the most part, is like nominal Christianity.
Yep.
For sure.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Right. And so there's a lot of people that grew up in the culture of church, or like they claim Christian almost like a last name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like something that they really about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I did a survey. I asked on campus, you know, are you Christian? You know, everyone said, oh yeah, I'm Christian.
Of course,
But then I started asking the question, are you a committed Christian? And they started thinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's probably the biggest challenge, is people basically not probably living in sin. Mm-hmm. You know, they go to church. Some people down to go to church on Sunday, but then they at party on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they, you know what I'm saying, getting high throughout the week. You know what I'm saying? They a lot of sexual morality. It's wild there. And so, but ultimately, I think it's the biggest challenge is getting people to realize that just because you claim Christianity almost like a last name, it don't mean you actually living up to that last name.
Yeah. So, like, are those people saved?
That's a great question. I think for some reason, I just think about like Jesus' words.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he say, "Follow me," you know, and I just think about, are people following Jesus?
Yeah.
And he say you can tell a tree by the fruit that it bears.
Mm-hmm.
Not for sure.
And so, like, the fruit that I'm seeing is a fruit of unrepentance. Mm-hmm. And that the fruit of unrepentance is that you can't have, you know, living water and salt water together. You know, a fig tree can't bear, you know, grapefruit, olives, or whatever
it is.
You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. So, you know, I think that's the biggest thing that does like, you know, break my heart. It's like the fruit that I'm seeing from people, it's not the fruit of Jesus. It's the fruit of the world, fruit of sin, fruit of unrepentance. And ultimately, you know, we're there, and that's the word that we preach.
Yeah.
You know, we do as much as we can to model love, but also preach truth.
Yeah. So, all right, you got really emotional. You almost got me crying when you brought up the Like, does anything come from Nazareth? And that you said that right after you said you laughed at the idea of going to essentially what you described as Nazareth.
Yeah, so don't do that.
The
Lord sends you.
But that is like a time where God had to shift something in your heart to bring you from a person who was like, absolutely not, I would not do that, to a person who is weeping at the feet of Jesus saying, like, send me. How did like you transform into what God needed you to be there? How did he change your heart?
Yeah, I think I've always been a person who can, I think about my own father. I guess it does go back to my own father in a sense. Man, like, I used to feel like, I don't want to get too much to it, but ultimately, my father don't ask for a lot. Mm-hmm. And when he do ask for something, it's because he really cares about it and it really means something to him. Yeah. And so I just made it a point to, like, man, if my father needs something, he ain't got to go to the next person to get what he need. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel some type of way if God is asking for something and I say, God, you can't get that from me. You got to go to the next person. Like, nah, like,
who am I? Yeah.
My father, he ain't never got to go to the next person. Right. You know what I'm saying? Once he bring something to me. No. Or even when something come to my attention that I know relates to my father. Yeah. It's
taking
just
care
like
of his business.
Yeah, and so ultimately I think the Lord won my heart back when I was a freshman in college. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just some hard things where you feel like, man, I don't know I can do this. And some things that are just so past what I'm ready to do. But man, I think I say one step at a time. The Lord changed my heart one step at a time. He kept fighting for me. He kept loving me. He kept bringing me back. I had good friends and community that kept loving me and bringing me back. And I don't think there's levels to like saying yes to the Lord. Mm-hmm. I just think, you get blocks. You get issues in your heart that keep you from saying yes, Lord. But then once those issues clear out, and like yes to this is the same yes to that. Like so the Lord has my yes. Yeah.
Like when you actually surrender your life to Jesus, it's like my life is his. Whatever he wants, I've already said yes to it. And like for you, it's like, okay, you said yes to Jesus and he took your heart and then he says, hey, do this. And so like you had to some degree disobey your parents because they weren't. Now were they in favor of what you do?
Nah. I mean, now? You said now?
Now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how did they come to that point of being cool with what you do?
Well, two things.
Okay.
First, they seen that I was taking care of myself.
They saw the money come in.
They saw the money come in. Yep. So it was like, okay, right. I told my dad, I was like, man, I'm ready to marry Mariah. He was like, with what jobs?
Show me the bank statement.
You are not ready for marriage. I'm like, Pop, I actually came to tell you. Really,
I wasn't asking. Right. Wait, was it difficult talking to like her people about like? Because it was difficult for me talking about father-in-law. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You can imagine. Yep. So
my wife's family doesn't even acknowledge the fact that I have a job. I'm unemployed.
No, I wrote like a 3-page essay.
Oh yeah,
to like some of her family because they was like coming at me. Like I'm like, there's so many jobs that are relevant, like that's in relation to what we do. Like there's a lot of nonprofits. There's a lot of people that do a lot of stuff around this world.
You threw your little link at the end of the essay. Hey, support me right here.
Man, anyway, that's a whole.
I'm messing with you, bro.
Man, this is, I'm gonna say this. When you raise funds as a missionary, they teach you how to go to your family first, like people you closest to. Mm-hmm. Those gonna be the people that gonna like get on board first. Like that's easy. First 1,000 with the black community. That's a mistake. Most of the time, that's a mistake.
Not for sure.
Not for you, huh?
Not for me, but most of the time, most of the people like I've watched do it. It
hasn't worked
for sure
because they're trying to talk you out of it. I can't for you to support me.
Yeah, thanks.
So
wow.
Where we at?
I don't know. All right, wait. So your heart, you eventually grew a heart for HBCUs because you go.
Yeah.
And so what was your experience when you got there? So you said you were building relationships. It was during COVID. Like, what did God do, like, when you got there?
For sure. And so when I got there, I had to adjust to the culture. You know, I grew up in a black community, went to all black Hispanic high school. I wasn't around really any white people until I went to Sam Houston. Right. And then, you know,
they're everywhere. They just spawning.
All right. And so, and I got adjusted or acclimated kind of to that certain culture. And then moving to Prairie View, which is a historically black college in a, you know, all black town, I'm like, whoa, like, it's different. Like, at Sam Houston, people would kind of push the Republican Party from, like,
the pulpit
to some degree. And you kind of be like, I didn't expect them to do that.
I was raised Democrat.
I was just surprised, though, because it's like, you know, we just Christian, but they, like, kind of pushing. But then I went to Prairie View, and they're pushing the Democratic Party. Right. Guess from where?
The pulpit.
From the pulpit.
I know. It's crazy.
So I'm like, you know, let me not say nothing.
Right.
When I'm over in Sam Houston, let me be careful what I said. When then I came to people, I got to be careful what I say over here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like so different in a lot of different ways. And so basically I had to get acclimated. And so, but in that acclimation, you know, sometimes, you know, the black community, they can have on this kind of like hard face. And so sometimes you don't want to approach because they feel like, oh, they not really ready to receive what you got to say. They're not going to give you a friendly welcome.
Right.
But people just be having a face like that. I don't know why. But when you actually go talk to them, they're
like,
cool.
No.
Like fix your face. Like, what? And so, I don't know. I used to do that too, though. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why this is thing.
I mean, I'll do it, like, not even think about it. I just...
Anyway, so anyway, getting there, had to get acclimated, had to build a little courage, you know what I'm saying, a little boldness in the Lord. But ultimately, the thing that the Lord put on my heart was that I was not there to reach the campus. I was there to reach the people who would reach the campus.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I just, like, I've been keeping in front of me my job as a missionary, which is not to basically for me to be the one that keeps it sustained, but to raise up people who sustains it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Lord's been faithful with that. You know, the first people we've met, they, you know, we became close friends with them, best friends. And these people, they had a heart for God. You know, some was still, you know, stuck in maybe in this lifestyle. Some was still maybe in a little bit of a delusion about what it really meant to be committed to Christ. But they had a genuine heart for God.
Yeah.
And so they got it, and you know, and they started really walking with God. And we had a moment in our ministry our first year where we thought everything was gonna break apart. And we had built up this friendship, and but then there was a party. It was a spring break party at a beach or something, and we found out that a lot of our students were going, but not just our students, our 15 students, but like, like one of our future potential leaders, were taking them.
Oh goodness!
And so it was like, I'm hurt. I'm kind of sad all around, but I'm really like, we gotta say something. But it's at that point where if we say something, but they still do it anyway, what do we do with that? Right. Do we then, like, just chop half the ministry? Do we say, nah, you can't be a leader no more? Like, do we start back over from zero when we didn't build, like, a whole year, like, investing into these people? It was a scary moment. But ultimately, the Lord, you know, we don't get to decide what the bar is. You know, Jesus already did that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we just got to hold his word. And so I that's what I said to our staff. It's like, hey, we got to have conversations with these people. If they pay money, say we'll pay them back their money. Whatever pre-sale they got or whatever, like, we got to talk to them.
Fight for them, yeah.
And I found out about this party like 2 days before the party. And I said, let's go talk. We talked to everybody.
Yeah.
And anyway, we talked to our potential future leader. He decided not to go to the party. You know, so people he was riding with, they was mad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, don't let them talk. They get in your head. Don't let them.
Those Christians.
I was like, nah, you getting in his head. I'm about to speak the truth.
Right.
I love it.
And ultimately, a lot of those same people that end up, you know, they went to the party got shut down. But a lot of those same people that was mad, they are like our current student leaders now. Yeah. Some of those same leaders are people who are looking to be missionaries now.
Wow.
And our ministry is flourishing. You know, right now we have like 15 student leaders. We got about 150 students in the ministry. And we're looking good because we decided to hold the bar of like, this is what Jesus said it meant to walk with him.
Yeah.
And we're just going to stick to that. And if the ministry go down to zero because there's nobody that wants to follow Jesus, then that's out of our hands. But we're going to be faithful to him.
That's so good.
Yeah,
it could have been tempting. It could have been tempting to just like
100%
try to move the bar so that the ministry, you know what I'm saying? Like, God, why would you send me here
for numbers? Yeah,
exactly, for something to appear fruitless. But like, man, you stood on the word of God, and then God rewarded your faithfulness.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I talked to James Price a lot because I mean he's an hour from me
for sure,
and he's told like the story you just told is like stories he's told me so many times, and like. I talked to him right on the elevator coming up, like when I was coming up here, I was like, all right, what do you want to know from Sir James? And he was asking like, how do I combat cultural Christianity where people want to claim Christianity, come to like small group, come to worship, and then go clubbing the day after. So like, how have you've set a bar, you've set a standard, but how do you in love show that does not reflect Christ?
I think what's crazy is, you know, again, I say, like, we didn't come to reach a campus, we came to reach those who would. It's the testimonies of the people that was out there, outside, that changed their life around, that's now walking with God. They the ones that speak up and say, nah, this fraternity stuff, this sorority stuff, this partying stuff, that stuff ungodly. Yeah. And they speaking stronger than I speak. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. No, for sure.
That's dope.
For sure.
And so it's like, man, like, I think, you know, when you can look at somebody that's in that, you know, if you get a white guy that come on campus preaching, they ain't listen to half the things he's saying. They're just like, who is you?
Right.
But when I get out there street preaching.
So you street preach?
I do.
Okay. All right. I had another question. I want to pick your brain on this. Why?
I just say they respond to what I have to say. But why do I street preach? I street preach, again, it go back to my heart. Man, I feel like I street preach for two reasons. The first reason is for my own heart. I feel like I don't want to be afraid to stand up for God. I feel like I am faced with my own self. Am I really committed to God if it puts me against man? And I feel like to really be committed to God, that answer has to be yes. But for me, if that answer is yes, then why would I not stand up and proclaim the gospel? Ultimately, for me, it's because I'm more afraid of the criticism of man than the approval or praise of God. And so the kind of really just from my own heart, I get up there and I proclaim the goodness of God, so that I will be solidified in my own heart to stand with God. I have nothing holding me back. But the second reason I get up there is because, you know, we're called to be a light. And that light, when it shines, sometimes you don't even realize who all your light is hitting. But I've come to see and know that for the glory of God, I shine my light. I don't know who it's hitting. But over time, I've come to find out that the light shines and it hit a lot of people in ways that you didn't realize. When I preach, yes, I preach sin, but I also preach like just the wordiness of God. You know, I preach not just at people, I preach for my own self. You know, I preach at us. And and I preach passionately. You know, it's like, you may not agree with what I have to say. You may not, you know, care about what I have to say, but you're going to hear me say it.
Right. It's going to be the truth, like, regardless, whether you like it or not.
Wow. Like, a voice will be heard for the sake of Christ. And from doing that, you know, I've been to parties and I've preached at parties on our campus. I got me a microphone just cause.
You'll roll up at the parties.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
hey, that's dope, bro.
And you know, and I get even like people will come and, you know, just commend me. And then it's the people not walking with Christ and the people walking with Christ.
Yeah.
Because people not walking with Christ a lot of times, even because, and this may be a specialty in the black community, because there's a Christian background, they understand like what I'm saying is true.
Yeah.
Facts.
And so there's a certain level of respect that I get just because I'm actually saying the truth. Like, he right though. Like, man, I don't like him, but he
I know
right.
I'm not supposed
right.
to be.
Yeah. Nah,
Yeah.
facts.
And then other Christians that, like, you know, they may be like, man, like a little shy, a little timid. And when they see somebody else being bold for God, you know, it just
brings something out of them.
It brings something out of them. You know, it brings stuff out of me whenever I see other people being bold for God. So
Yeah.
And so I that's what I've come to experience. That's why I do it.
And so, all right, right before that, you said a white man will come to my campus and preach, and they don't want to hear what they have to say.
Right.
And so I feel that because, bro, I'm a white man. It's not. I don't have to hide it. And so it's like
It's levels to it though.
no,
But also, you like a spicy white.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're
like,
not just like
look.
Yeah, I invite you to the barbecue.
Okay,
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
But like, I think at the end of the day, though, it's like it's still harder for me to reach black students on our campus. And so, like, up until this year, I had a black staff member. And, I mean, we left on good terms. But, I mean, he went off to the workforce. Now we have a staff of 4 white people. And our last black, like, American black leader just graduated. And I'm not going to lie, bro, I'm terrified. I don't want a white ministry.
Yeah.
And our Wednesday night worships, hey, it's like 40, 50% black still. But we have, like, in terms of in small group, in relationship, in discipleship, it's low. And that terrifies me because I'm like, bro, I don't want to lose this side. How can I, and anyone listening who is a white person, effectively reach the black community that of people who are in their life?
For sure. And so I think ultimately it comes down to, like, and you know, the impression you make on a person. I think obviously because of the history of America, there's already like a predisposition of like mistrust. And so they'll look at you and actually they're making a judgment from looking at you, the way you look, the way you talk. And they're like, I don't know if I can trust this person. But the thing is, you know, I get the same thing, you know, being a 32-year-old, you know, married man. It's like, oh, you don't go here, you're married, you're grown, like, why would I hang out with you?
Nah, for sure.
But what I noticed is that once I establish a friendship or relationship, and I say, oh, this person cool.
Yeah.
They don't mind my age as much. It's like, oh yeah, he's older, but he cool. You know?
Right.
All right. And so I think, you know, the same thing apply. I would say to my white brothers and sisters, like, if you reaching a you know, culturally black, you know, person, they may have a initial mistrust, but if you can like make it past that, then they'd be like, oh nah, you cool.
Yeah,
we cool.
Nah,
like I respect what you have to say. If anything, now I'm gonna take up for you. If I hear somebody else talking about you, like, nah, like, don't come at them.
Nah, facts. I mean, because I've struggled. We talked about that earlier
on the way
today,
up here.
that even still, man, I've been living for Christ for 7 years, almost 8 years now, and it's like I still struggle with that initial mistrust of white people from time to time, you know, and having to bring that before the Lord, you know, and to eradicate that out of me and to make sure that doesn't ever hinder me ministering to white people or allowing myself to be ministered to by a white man, because I struggled with that early on in my walk with God, that the person who was discipling me was white, and I struggled with it. I was like, what does this white man have to tell me? Like, he doesn't understand what it's like to be black. He doesn't understand my struggles. And once I was able to break that yoke, because I had to understand that was from the enemy, I was able to receive so much more from him and receive all that God had for me, that I was missing out on parts of the body of Christ by only wanting to be around black people at all times, you know, and like really being able to break down and understand what God had to say from quote unquote the other side, I guess, from where I was standing.
Yeah, and that's good, bro. And to add on top of that, low-key, I kind of want to give, like, how do you get past that initial, rejection? And low-key, I think something that I've noticed that is good is when it's acknowledged, like, the elephant in the room is acknowledged. Like, oh, man, like, there may be a mistrust here. I acknowledge the past of the history of, like, between blacks and whites. I acknowledge that you may have experiences in your life that has not been, like, positive with other white people. Like, I think asking the question, like, like, showing concern and coming with questions, even the question may feel awkward to ask. Like, I don't want to make it awkward, but what it shows is that you're aware and that you care.
I was telling Austin that today. I'm like, you ask questions. And that's what makes it okay, I'm willing to walk through that with you and tell you the answers, that we talk through that and we understand. But the fact that you ask questions means so much to me as a black man, that you're deciding to take an interest into how I feel about this certain topic, or just that taking the time to step outside of yourself to understand who I am.
And so, all right, I want to take it one step deeper. I feel like I can have very good casual relationships. It's when it tries to go deeper that a lot of times the disconnect happens. Like, I mean, I played basketball in high school. So it was like, I didn't have white friends, but I also wouldn't say I had deep relationships with any of the people in my life. And so it was like going one step deeper with specifically black people. It felt like when I would try, it was like, hey, like, this is the wall, this is the line kind of thing. I don't know if that's something like, maybe like I'm just not feeling what.
It happens if you black too. Like, sometimes it is hard to get on that deeper level with black people. Just in general, I feel like,
look, some white people, it's like your first conversation. Oh, here's my whole entire life story. And it's just like, but yeah, I mean,
but I get what you're saying. Now, if you had.
Is there anything there, or is it just like, hey, some people are gonna open, some people not?
I mean, I think it's definitely like that, because, man, like, I talked to this one person at Prairie View A&M, and he was like straight racist. He was just like, I don't trust white people. I don't want to talk. I'm not going to listen to white people. It was like, man. And so when people grow up in bubbles, when people grow up with trauma, when people grow up in bad relationships, like family relationships, environments, it colors them in all different darker shades. And so the truth is, there are going to be some people that are harder to reach. And I'm with my boy, like, I get the same thing. Like,
yeah.
Just and sometimes it may not have to do with you as much as it has to do with just their own relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
Because when people been through hurt and pain, they're just not a lot of times open and ready to, like, really lean into Jesus.
That's real.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. And then so what?
Are you switching gears?
Not fully. If you have something there, go.
Well, so I did want to talk about, like, with that whole, there's something I've struggled with myself. And so boom, like I said, I went to a black church growing up, Baptist church, hooping and hollering, all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of church I went to. And so then I come to Chi Alpha.
Yeah.
Music a lot slower. You know what I'm saying?
We got some Hillsong. We got some.
They ain't got no choir up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, right.
That's how y'all be worshiping?
Acoustic guitar, all that kind of great. I know they had a bass guitar at my church. You know what I'm saying? They had an acoustic guitar and all that. So, like, and then I go there, and so the church aspect it's a little weird to me at first, but man, I found that it was so much more conducive for me connecting with God. You know, I've always appreciated gospel music, but I feel like gospel music is always like, hey, y'all, let's praise, but then, like, the contemporary Christian music is let's worship the Father. You know, and that was so revolutionary for me and me growing a deeper connection with God. But now, as someone who's seeking that relationship, like, for other people, it's difficult for me sometimes to invite black people to my predominantly white church.
Yeah, I was there. I've been there.
And so I'm like, and I'm thinking back to what you said earlier in the podcast. It happened for me, so why not? Why can't it happen for somebody else? But it's like, man, sometimes it's difficult. So, like, I'm prepping them before they come to church. I'm hey, the worship is different. The clapping might be a little offbeat. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. It's different. Press through the worship and get to the word, because the word is going to be something different that you ever heard before. And I find myself, I feel like that's partially dishonoring to the church that I'm a part of to say that, oh, just get through worship and get to the word. Like, I want to find a way to navigate that in a healthy way as far as how do I encourage, like I said, black people to go to like a church. Like, you know, are you able to make sense of what I'm saying? Like, is it making sense?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so what you got?
Oh, you definitely.
He felt it in the first sentence. Yeah,
right. You should definitely prep people.
Yeah,
I prep people for we can go to HBCU, but whenever we go to any regional district conference,
it's different.
You know,
so here,
so you prep them.
Not facts.
But I try to prep them without saying anything negative. And shine it in a negative light.
Yeah. It's the way you communicate it.
Yeah, it's just, I try to, it's different. People different, so, but then I also kind of present it as an opportunity or a challenge, like to give something to the Lord. Like, and I try to I have to lean on my relationship with them. And I think that's what kind of it depends on, because not only do I, try to phrase it in a way that's not dishonoring, that honors everyone, but I try to model it. Like, we're in service today, it's like, Matt say a little bit something that's like, I don't know how they gonna take that.
Right. No, for sure.
But it's like,
because you have a protecting heart to some degree of how they're gonna receive things.
Right, just how they may perceive it. Like, like, I know when people, I don't know, they may take it the wrong way.
Exactly.
He didn't mean it that way, but they may take it the wrong way.
Exactly.
Like, send in the group chat, hey, he didn't mean that.
But they're observing how I respond to things. Right. And so it's like, I clap. When we clapping for missions, I clap for missions.
Yeah.
When he's saying something good, I'm like, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm giving my support. And it's so and that happened for me. When I came to Sam Houston, I showed up to first worship night service. I was like, I already didn't like going to church.
I used to show up late.
I darn sure don't like going to this one.
I used to show up late intentionally, bro. I used to skip worship intentionally and just go there like 20 minutes late.
You would never bring your life group to worship.
Okay, hold on. Wait.
You didn't.
Oh, I wouldn't say I never brought my life group to worship. I didn't require it as much as I did life group because that's what they wanted.
It was like hey, you come into life group.
Yeah, y'all come to life group.
This is like T&L thing. Like,
and I was like, like Thursday night service, like, I mean, you can if you want to. I don't know. I just felt like
you didn't frame it in a light.
I didn't. And that's why I got the results that I did, as far as I was their only connection to the ministry, because they would never be around the large group ministry because I wouldn't push them going to Thursday night service. So when I graduate, they just dissipate out of the ministry, because I wasn't honoring like my governing or the Christian authority that was placed over me. I wasn't honoring them. And so God, and it wasn't able to be blessed.
And let me stop. Part of it's honor, but the other part is challenging. I challenge, my students and my brothers and my sisters to accept it's not our ideal situation. But neither was Jesus dying on the cross.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look,
right. Nah,
when you look at every uncomfortable situation through that lens,
thanks.
Stop whining.
We can honor God in this, adversity, and we should honor God.
Yeah.
In this adversity. Nothing should stop us from worshiping God.
Nah, facts.
Right, and then nothing should stop us from participating in the body of Christ. At the end of the day, these are brothers and sisters in Christ, and so God, forgive me if I somehow paint a picture that that's not something that we should push for.
I see what you're saying.
Even though it may be difficult.
Because I'd be praying, please do at least one Maverick City song.
Right. Hey, Maverick City, everybody got their thoughts, but
I mean,
like Maverick
the music
City.
good.
I like it. Yeah, apparently they're controversial now, but
apparently no.
Apparently, the music good. I
get out
connect
your
with
feelings.
God.
Mess with it.
I feel like at this point, every big worship team is controversial to some
But
degree.
they just want us. They just want us to sing psalms, the whole. Yeah, that's what the people want at this point.
No, it's true. All right, so this question came to my mind earlier, and because I know there will be white people who listen to this episode who probably already pressed skip. I'm gonna be real,
for sure.
But if they did make it here, and I'll probably clip this into a short because I want them to see it. So there will be white people who would say, man, Black History Month, catering to the Black community when it comes to church, when it comes to ministry is not important. They should just fall in line. What do you say to those kind of people to show them that, like, no, like, there is value in reaching them where they're at?
For sure. I mean, that's another hard question, so, Jesus gives value to everybody. We said we travel to the ends of the earth. I travel to the ends of the earth, for one person who ain't never had the opportunity to hear about Jesus. But when you stand face to face with that person and they say, wow, thank you, it makes all the difference. And so when, there's, the value, people have value because they're made in the image of God. And so I don't think Black people have, less or more value than anybody else. They have equal value. And so at the end of the day, it is all of us asking God, who you asking us to reach? And that's just people in general.
Yeah.
But I think, when we talk about our Jerusalem, I think we have to acknowledge that Black people are part of our Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we also have to acknowledge, though, that it's really culture that we have to come to acknowledge. They're part of our Jerusalem. They grew up in a different culture.
Yeah.
Within Jerusalem. And I think sometimes people fail to recognize that. They think, you can have some Black people in your ministry, but they grew up in a, white culture, then they will be just fine in your ministry.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Nah, that's true.
And so then you say, well, they don't have a problem with it. They're fine. And then you kind of push that on everybody else, not realizing that people are different culture. Mm-hmm. And so I think, you have to look at how can I serve that culture? How can I honor that culture? And the honor of culture, it first comes with a little bit of compassion, of understanding how they are feeling uncomfortable in your culture. And it don't got to be anything wrong with your culture, but I'm pretty sure I can ask most white people and say, if you was the only white person in a room full of Black people, Black culture people, you feel a little bit
a little uncomfortable.
Sure.
No, it's true. Yeah. Like we were talking about that earlier, where it's like he was saying how, like, man, when he walks in the room, he will count how many Black people are in the room.
I'm looking.
And I've literally never had that thought to count, okay, how many white people are in the room? Oh. No, how many white people are in the room? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, it's just not, like, it's not something that is ingrained in who I am. I'm not going to look at those things. But, like, in a lot of, like, Black cultures, it's like, do you do that? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you see, it's like,
I may not count them meticulously, but
you have a mental note.
Mental note.
I need to see it. Yeah.
And I think,
and the less it is, the more I'm acknowledged, the better people like, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. And it's like, but I think a lot of white churches, or a lot of churches, a lot of ministries are like, hey, we just going to do what we do. And if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. And I just like, that kind of breaks my heart to some degree. Because it's like, if I don't become intentional about making sure our ministry is diverse, diversity will not happen.
You're right. And it won't, because, being multicultural is difficult. The more your culture changes, the harder it is to keep some people. Because at the end of the day, you have a lot of people that are not committed to Christ yet.
Yeah.
And so if you make your culture more Black or fitting towards that population, you may start losing some of your other white population who are not really down for that because they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a challenge, and ultimately it makes things harder. It makes things harder, and people, take the easier route. And, strategically speaking, you could even make a case to take that easier route. But I think it comes down to the heart of God. Like, what do God want? And I think that's where you have to, like, and I think we all face this as directors for sure, or even just as a small group leader. You're like, who's going to be in my small group? Mm-hmm. Do I want like these kind of lame, nerdy kids that socially awkward people, or do I want this cool people, pretty, handsome, you know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure. For sure.
And so truth is, our heart kind of leans a little bit towards, I want these type of people, but then you realize but the heart of Christ. It's like, how can I ignore these people? How can I not give any cadence to these other people? Sometimes I was talking to a little one of my friend's daughter, and she's in the 5th grade. And I had another director come up to me, and he was like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" But I was talking to her. He was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." I was like, "No, it's cool." And I went back to talking to her. And it's like it would have been so easy for me to just be like, "Oh, I'm just talking to this 5th grader. I'm gonna talk to the director."
Yeah, I'm gonna talk. Right. Yeah, big dog. Yeah,
big dog. And ultimately, it's just like, man, like Jesus gave value to those who was like unseen. And so I think when we have a ministry, I feel the same way being at HBCU. When I see a white person on campus, I be like, please be my friend. Come. Like I hope you can be a part. Wow. Because I want us to not be the same thing that I have experienced that has like been a bother to me. Like I know what it feels like to be in a room and not feel noticed or like considered.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like, and so it's like I'm much more mindful about that, and I don't want to make other people feel like that in our presence.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so I think it's a heart thing that comes from the heart of Jesus, and I think when you embrace that, like, God, what do you want? I think you will not only challenge yourself, but you start challenging your people to live and behave more like Christ, serving and giving, other people giving up a little bit of their own culture.
Yeah.
And comfortability. So I think we have to just, challenge people more. But I think ultimately, you think that may hurt people. Some people will leave. Some people won't like it. But what it do, though, it will mature the people that you do have. For sure. And they'd be stronger 100%. Christians for it.
Definitely. 100%. No, I love that.
And that was awesome.
Yeah. No. Do you have anything else?
Nah, I feel like that was good. I feel like that was a great place to land the plane. And, man, like I said, we just thank you for taking your time. This is our first Black guest on the Kingdom Come podcast. Okay. So it took us a year to get here, but hey, man,
we made it. Right.
We're here. Man. So thank you for dialoguing with us, because I know this conversation isn't easy for a lot of people. And I think this will be an awesome opportunity for those who want to grow. You know what I'm saying? And for those who don't want to grow, to maybe feel a little bit of conviction, which ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know
I definitely gathered something. So I appreciate you bringing your wisdom, bringing your insight. And so that we end every episode where Derek's going to say, and as always, go encounter the kingdom of God, and then we're all going to go everywhere you go.
And you will point at your camera.
We'll point at the phone.
Point at the phone? Oh, we're going to that camera.
Yeah. We're going to end on that one.
It's good.
All right.
And as always, go encounter the kingdom of God.
Everywhere you go. You're supposed to say
you didn't say it.
It's late.
See, I expected that for my white kid.